Professor Geetika?
Yes.
Yeah, you are very much audible.
We welcome all for second edition of our webinar series. Webinar 2.0 was started on 2nd June, inaugurated by Mr. Ravi DC, Chief Facilitator of DC School and Managing Director of DC Book. These webinars are conducted for the benefits of our students to get a chance to interact with eminent personalities from the society and to broaden their knowledge, skills, as well as their understanding in their field of interest. DC School of Management and Technology and DC School of Architecture and Design is promoted by DC Kirakemuri Foundation and co-promoted by DC Books, has two campuses located in Trivandrum and Vagaman in Kerala, India. The role that I am asked to play here is to welcome all the participants for today's speech. So let me start by welcoming our chief guest for today's webinar. Mr. Sanjay Kumar Gurudin is an IPS officer of 2005 batch, Kerala State Cadre. He's a qualified engineer from Mumbai University, a well-known cybersecurity analyst and investigator, especially online crimes against women and children. He's also an author of bestseller book, Your Child Safe, which is translated in 4 Indian languages. On behalf of DC's family, I welcome you, sir. Next, I welcome Mr. Ravi DC, Chief Facilitator of DC School and Managing Director of DC Books. Next, I welcome Dr. Ramachandran, Dean of School of Management, Architect Syriac TM, Dean of School of Architecture, Dr. Srikanth Vesvi, Director and Principal, Architect Shankar, Principal for Architecture, panel members, all faculty members of Vagaman and Trivandrum campus, students and alumni and all DCs for today's webinar. Next, let me welcome our panel members, Dr. Joby Jose, faculty, DCS Math, Alan Charian, student MBA 20, Nidhin TD, BCon 2019, Sonia MBA 2021. Who will be participating as panelists for our event. Now I welcome our chief guest, Mr. Sanjay Kumar, to deliver keynote address to us. Please, sir.
A very good evening to all. First of all, I would like to say thanks to Ms. Asha Fen and the management of DCS MAT for inviting me and giving this opportunity for speaking and interacting with the students. I was told that it will be like an interactive session. I think one thing I just wanted to note, I think the audio which Geetika was telling, I think that was slightly low. Whether that audio was less for me only or for the rest of the people also.
So you're quite hello.
Yeah.
So you're quite audible. Very, very clear. You can, the students will start asking questions to you now, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Alan Charian from second year MBA. I would like to ask you that as an IPS officer, how do you ensure the good relationship between the police officers and citizen, and what are you had first?
I think there was a slight breaking in the sound. Can you please, Alan? Can you please repeat the question?
No, sir. Sir, as an IPS officer, how do you ensure a good relationship between the police and the citizens, and what are the steps you have taken for it?
Okay. In fact, first of all, before I go and answer this question, I would like to say that generally what happens, there's a difference between a public perception when they see a police standing on the road. I mean, when he's a constable or when he sees an IPS officer. So I would like to say that, see, we all are like a nameless and faceless identity. Any person who is in this uniform, irrespective of rank, I mean, they all are branded like a police personnel. And any good thing or any bad thing done by any single individual across the state, not only the state, across the country, because we are not seen as Mr. X or Mr. Y or Mr. Sanjay or Mr. Allen, whoever it may be. It is like if anything goes wrong, it will be just told as if the police has done this, police has done good, or police has gone or they have done bad. So it actually we just cannot separate from any individual, any single police personnel with myself. So it becomes very important that we have to maintain a proper good relation with the public, so that that general perception does not goes bad. Historically, if you see, somehow our Indian society sees the police as in a very negative role. There are so many reasons to it. Maybe historically, if you see during the British time and all, police was used only to as a wing of a government, and generally it was projected as if police is only used for the harassment or against the common people. That is one. Second thing is, even if you see in the cinema halls, movie, there also the way the police is projected, that is also slightly negative. Of late, some good thing has started coming up, but generally it is shown as a negative only. And moreover, like, you know, when a small child is born, like in everybody's house, if a child is creating nuisance or is creating any problems, so generally everybody says that, okay, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, we will call the police, and they scare you by the name of the police. So because of all these factors, general perception of police is very not so good. But we do a lot of activities, we make a lot of effort to keep that perception in a better way. Like, especially if I talk about Kerala police, like we do a lot of efforts for ensuring that people are satisfied with the work what we do. We do a lot of activities in a Janamaitri. It's like a community policing. We involve public into it, number one. Second thing is, there is a purpose of a police. Like, nobody would like to go to the police station without any reason. Generally, they go with some grievance, some complaint, and they expect that the police should attend to their complaint properly. So the first and the foremost thing what we ensure is that when the people who come to the police station, I mean, they should ensure that a person is properly heard and their grievances are sorted out properly. Second thing is communication. See, it is well said that, you know, if you throw a stone on me, it may broke my bones. But if you use a very harsh word, if you use something very bad behavior, that will hurt me more, and that will always remain in my mind. So most of the time, a general public always complain about the behavior or the misbehavior of the police. So we also ensure that the behavior of the police should be good enough. There are certain limitations because the kind of a work police does, and the kind of people they have to face, the kind of a situation they have to face. I mean, their conditions of working are totally different. So sometimes maybe there are some aberrations, one or two delinquent police personnel who actually commit and they tarnish the image of the police. But overall, what we feel that in Kerala police, we do a lot of efforts. We ensure that the gap between the police and the public is reduced. We have made so many mechanisms by which public can easily approach to the police. whether it is a phone call, whether it's a fax, whether it is an email, whether it is helpline numbers. And then we have a control room vehicles where we ensure that once we receive any complaint, it is immediately sorted out. In addition to that, we do a lot of other activities which is not a core to the policing. Like for example, like what I am doing right now, interacting with the students or creating some awareness, going to the schools. There are so many other social activities like no drug campaign or cleaning the environment or going and interacting with the residential associations, finding out what is their problems and all. In fact, Janmaitri scheme, what we are doing is, in fact, we take care of so many houses there. Like, you know, there are certain districts where elderly people are there, where they just call to the police saying that we are having this problem, which is not related to the policing also. But then we do that. It is just because somehow we want to change the general perception of what police has traditionally. And I personally feel that we are successful to some extent in changing that that image. I hope I answered that question.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm Sonia Carvalho. My question is, Kerala Police has reached the milestone of 1 million followers on Instagram and 1.7 million followers in Facebook. So how effectively their online platforms are being utilized by Kerala Police?
In fact, I don't know how many people know that, you know, we are the Kerala Police is the highest in the world whose Facebook page or their website has so many followers. It is across the world, and that is one of achievement what we generally talk about. In fact, if you ask me, or I say that if I ask you people that do you know any of your activity which is not connected to the internet? Like the moment you wake up till you go and sleep, almost every activity has become now online. It is whether the way you talk to your friends, the way you make friendship, the way you do banking, the way you book your tickets, the way you plan your studies. Nowadays, after the pandemic, almost every student has come online. So we just cannot separate our offline activities and online activities. We can say that we are started living in a digital world. So almost like every activity. So we all have to somehow shift policing also to the online. And this particular effort of having a platform where people can access or people can see what police is doing. We also want to communicate to the people our activities. Plus, there are so many informations which we wish to tell to the public. So this platform is being used massively. In fact, during this pandemic itself, we had generated or given so many awareness videos, what a common people should do, what they should not do. During the cyber crime, apart from pandemic, there are so many awareness videos or awareness tips being shared online. Third is all the activities which Kerala Police does. That everything is being actually posted or shared, and depending upon the feedback of the people, we take a corrective measures also, because we may do something which may not be liked, or people might give some suggestions also. So it is like we are using it in a two-way. One is disseminating information from the police side. That could be an information, that could be a awareness, it could be a activity of the police. On the other hand, we take the inputs from the public and try to correct ourselves or try to improve ourselves. And as I said, since it is like the world's highest followers, so definitely that itself shows it has got a lot of positive points.
So we used to receive portal messages like online lottery, instant loans without any formalities, job offers, etc. People having poor cyber knowledge can fall into these types of traps. So even cyber educated people aren't safe. So what are the measures taken by the cyber cell to stop these online frauds?
In fact, I would like to say that during the pandemic time also there were like lot of online crimes happening. See, this particular activity by a cyber criminal is called a phishing activity. Phishing is one process by which a cyber criminal extracts a lot of informations from you. That information could be your password, it could be your credit card, it could be your PIN number. Now, how it happens? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
I'm sorry, this is all like technical failures. There was a power cut. Thankfully, yeah, I was actually answering to the online frauds, right? Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I was talking like even how it happens. I was telling about the phishing. Phishing is a technique by which these criminals, cyber criminals, they use it for extracting a lot of your informations, especially the financial transaction related informations. Now, I'll tell you a few examples how it happened during the pandemic period. There were certain messages which were circulated during pandemic saying that since it is a pandemic time, anybody who has availed a housing loan, because mostly everybody availed that. So if anybody has availed a housing loan, the government has decided to give a interest free during this pandemic time. If you want to avail, kindly update your and there's a link. So you click the link. When you click to the link, then the website of a bank gets open. It looks like a Pakka bank. It looks like it is really a bank website. Then it asks your credentials. You give your details. They will do some basic requirements. Then they will ask your bank account number or credit card number, PIN number, and finally you register that. But when you register it, actually these data, whatever you have submitted, that goes to the cyber criminal, and then they immediately use those details and they will siphon away your money. That is one common thing. Apart from that, nowadays you will get to know that a lot of offers are being given, like iPhone 12 Pro at the cost of 20,000 or 25,000. So you have won that, or the Amazon is giving this special discount on this particular occasions. So we immediately get fascinated, or we develop that kind of a greed, and immediately we want to click that link. When you click that link, again the Amazon website, look-alike website will get open, and then you choose the product, you make the payment. They will ask you your address, delivery address, everything as if it is being done in a original Amazon site. But you complete the transaction, you pay that money by your credit card or your by Paytm, whatever mode of transaction you do, and then your money gets siphoned off, and then you are waiting for the product to come, and your product will never arrive. So this was a very common online frauds which we come across so many times. Not only this, I mean, I would like to just put a cautious word. This particular thing can happen for anything. Like everybody nowadays use a Facebook. One fine day you will see that you got an email from a Facebook. The URL will show that the mail has come from www.facebook.com, and the Facebook says that in America or somewhere in your there is a data leak. The Facebook has been hacked. In order to check whether your data is safe or whether your account is safe or whether it is hacked, click on the link. When you click on the link, it will show a Facebook page, and then the general procedures what we do a login, and we enter our password, and when we log in, generally the page will not open. By the time that particular page has already sent your login ID and password to the cyber criminal, immediately they will change the password and your Facebook account is hacked. Not only this, nowadays your phone can be hacked. I think very recently there was a very big controversy which is going on regarding Pegasus, where uh, till now we used to believe that in order to get your system hacked you have to click on the link, but this Pegasus spyware, it does not require even the link. Even if you get a missed call, or even if you see the some photo, even that, the moment you do that activity, a spyware or some kind of a malware get installed in your mobile phone, and it will, like, the person will get an access of your phone in almost all the way you do. They can access your photo gallery, they can access your contact details, they can see your messages, they can see your WhatsApp chats, they can even put on your camera, they can take a photograph. It is as good as the way you are using. So this is called a phishing technique, which is being used for so many reasons: to commit fraud, to hack your accounts, to steal your data. So now this is what I told is about the phishing and the technique used by the cybercriminal. Now what police is doing? See what happens. The online world is very vast. I mean, there are certain limitations. Like, we can act only when we get a complaint. We do not have a too much of a preventive mechanism. So whenever you come across, first of all, what we do is we create a lot of awareness among the people. We conduct a lot of awareness seminars. We go to the schools. We take sessions for the students, for the parents, and ensure that we make them aware what are the risks and dangers. Second thing, what we do is we have a lot of helpline numbers. There are cyber police stations almost every district in Kerala, and uh, we encourage people to give the complaint as quickly as possible, because the financial transactions, if you're using any wallet or if you're using a transaction, to get the money physically transferred from your account to that particular account, there is a certain time cap. If you're lucky enough, and if you can inform it immediately that when the transaction has taken place, we may be able to block that money. We will ensure that your money does not get actually transferred from your account, but then that time is very less than 24 hours. So if you promptly give us a complaint, maybe we can protect your money. And third thing what we do is we have listed out certain types of frauds or certain people, uh, certain mobile numbers, where we keep little surveillance. But those criminals are also smart enough. They keep on changing their IDs. They keep changing their numbers, and it becomes very difficult for us. So prevention and taking precaution is the key. There are certain limitations from the enforcement side, so it is always better that be aware what are the various risks, what are the various way in which the criminals will attack you, and try to take all the safety measures, rather than totally depending upon the police that they will investigate and get back your money. I am not shirking away from my responsibility, but it is always better. Prevention is better than cure. I hope, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Yeah.
The Qualcomm conference of 2021 is going to be held in November. So how do you expect it to be pan out?
If I have got it correctly, you are asking about the Cocoon.
Sir, also about the Cyberdome, Kerala Police.
Okay. See, this Cyberdome is a very unique thing about the Kerala Police. In fact, it has started the way back. This is the 13th year. Just you can imagine, 13 years back, Kerala Police has thought of a public-private partnership for detecting the cyber criminals. You will be surprised that this particular model was started in UK only just 2-3 years back. I mean, when we think of it, see what happens, uh, when you enter in a police department, or even for that matter, any service. To enter to that particular service, you learn something. You are a graduate, you are a PG, you write an entrance exam, and finally you get selected. Once you get selected, generally what is the tendency? You stop learning. Same thing is true with every profession, even the policing and all. So when a person enters the police department, he learns about the law, he learns about the investigation, and intermittently, maybe after 2-3 years of service, he undergoes a in-course training so that he can update his knowledge. But when you compare and see the cyber crime, the speed at which it is growing, the speed at which it is changing, every second, every moment, the strategies and the type of cyber attacks keeps on evolving. Like today, they might attack you by some phishing technique. Tomorrow, they might attack you some other ways and means. So it is very difficult for a police to keep up with the pace of the cyber criminals. We just cannot keep on training the police every day. So what Kerala Police thought, we'll have a public-private partnership where in Kerala we have about 400 IT companies where they have we have interacted with them. It's like a PPP model. We take their help because they are more advanced. It's like a give and take. So many times we take their help, and they also take our help. So this is very unique in the country. And on the same model, I think various other state police also have thought of opening a cyber dome in other state polices also. Cocoon is one such part of a cyber dome in Kerala Police, where annually we conduct a international cyber security conference where we bring almost everybody, whether it is a police officers, whether it is a policy makers, whether it is a lawyers, politician, academics. So all people are brought under one roof, and there is a seminar for 4 days. Not only seminar, there are certain workshops, there are certain hacking competitions, and we get to know in what way we can improve the policing. And during this particular Cocoon, we are concentrating more on data protection, privacy, dark web. Very recently, we had conducted a hackathon where focusing more on how can we have a more checks on the dark web. In fact, I don't know how many people like when we say that we are using an internet, when you Google search, when you search anything on a Google, we are able to see only 2% of what the entire internet content has. We have an access only for 2% of the content. Remaining 98% is a deep web, dark web, where the content is not indexed. If it is not indexed, your Google search will not be able to search them. So it is like the technology which generally we as a police organization cannot keep a pace with it. Like if you talk about cryptocurrencies, if you talk about the borderless crimes, if you see that, if you talk about like some system DDoS attack on some traffic systems. So for all these purposes, we need to be updated. And for that purpose, this particular system was evolved where we can take their help and solve this, solve such kind of a new generation crimes. That's all. I mean, next question.
How do you manage a robust public relation apart from the social media intervention?
In fact, part of this question I have already answered that earlier only. See, social media is a totally what I personally feel that it is an impression management. Like that is not a reality. Whatever I want to show to the people, only those things are shown. So everybody has got a tendency to show only good things. Like you also know that when you take a selfie, you will add a lot of filters, you will take a photograph from various angles, edit it, filter it, then you will finalize that, okay, this my photo, I look more good in this particular photo, and that is the photo which you posted. Or when you, so we all have a tendency to show our best image on social media. Similarly, that could be true with the online platform of a Kerala police also, that we will be definitely showing only good things. But the real judge or the real image of a police is not happening just because of the social media management. The real impression is what is actually happening on the ground, and how will we achieve that particular good image. It is just because to ensure that the purpose for which the police is made, there is a purpose, whether that purpose is getting solved or not. If the people are satisfied with your work for which the police is made for, then I think our that image among the common citizen will be good. Now, what is a work of a policing? It's like a prevention of crime. It's about detection of a crime, ensuring that all the criminals are taken before the law. People feel safe. If anybody goes to the police station, they are treated well. Their grievance is attended. Police is prompt. So all these things, when I am able to ensure that all these services for which the police is meant for, if that work is done satisfactorily good, then I think we don't need to go for a media management, or we don't need to go for a social media management. So, and without doing the core responsibility of the police, if we just simply do a social media management will not help. So maximum focus, we ensure that at the police station level, at the cutting edge level, where there is an interaction between the police and the public, that is done properly. Now we have improved. Traditionally, we think of police station to be a very dark, shabby place where we think that, okay, a very fat, dark police personnel with lathi and beating the lockup and beating the people in lockup. That is, you if you go to the police stations now, it is like we have made it little more people friendly. We have opened the reception. We ensure that there is a liaison person. Like if you go to some hospital, there will be some liaison person. So we have posted a liaison persons. Then there are certain legal requirements also. We have also made it child friendly, women friendly, handicap, physically disabled peoples. We have built a ramp, and also that every person of the society could reach to that. And we keep on doing lot of what you call in-course training for the police personnel, and that so that their behavior is improved. Because it's like if the person comes, see, I may be seeing a lot of grave crimes like murder, theft. I may be dealing with a lot of post-mortem, and for me, but if a person comes with a small petition that one of my neighbor has misbehaved with me, for me it may look like it's a very, very small case. But we should understand, we keep on ingraining in the minds of the police person that for him, for the person who has come for them, that small issue is most important. So don't compare your prejudiceness. Oh, that crime is very small, and you don't neglect it. So all the services which are related to the police, in fact, like passport verification, there are certain services and there are certain crime investors. Services like passport verifications, whether it's a job verifications, whether it is a character certificate, or those are the services where we have made it all online. We have a Tuna platform, we have a CCTNS online platform where you can monitor where is your application, where is your petition, whether it's disposed or not. So main focus of managing our impression is by giving a service for which the policy is made. Maybe you all may be thinking that, okay, DIG is talking very idly, but ground situation is totally different. I agree. There's a far way ahead to go ahead, but it is like all given. Even the public are also like this. Sometimes we have to be slightly rude and harsh. This is the place where if you go in and travel in a train in Delhi, so even in the bathroom in the trains, if you see that the jug, the water mug, that is also chained. No, because there's a general mentality that even that mug will also be stolen. So that is, we live in that society. So but we have improved a lot, and we'll keep on improving. Next question.
Some applications which are not available in Google Play Store, some applications which are made ad free by payment method can be downloaded from Google Chrome in the APK format. So are they legal? Because there are many users who have done the same. Does a cyber cell have any role to play here?
Do you think that is legal?
No, sir.
That is not legal. It is like there may be so many people who might have done it, but since we have not received a complaint, so there was no action taken. But let me tell you, when you download a particular app, which is a paid app, through other ways and means, there are so many risks. Number one risk is you have committed a crime by downloading, by adopting some different ways. It's like a stealing. If that particular app company gives a complaint to the police saying that such and such person has done a copyright or they have stolen our product, definitely we have to take a case against you. You are so long safe just because there is no complaint. Number one. Second risk is that whenever, most of the time, all the malwares or the cyber hackers, they will install a lot of malwares through this free softwares. So if you go and download those software, you are actually risking your system. You will be damaging your system. Third thing is, what police does is, generally in such cases we are not doing much in a proactive sense. It is totally on a reactive and punitive manner. If we get a complaint, we will proceed legal action for that. But what I advise is better to not see, the young generations, we are all so tech savvy, and we knowingly, unknowingly commit a lot of crime. We think that any activity what I do online will not be traced. You are mistaken. You are mistaken. You will be leaving a lot of digital footprint. At the same time, many times, like, you are not aware that the activity which you are doing is wrong. Like, for example, if you remember, in Kerala there was a very famous movie called Premam. It's a very hit movie, and there was a complaint that some person has downloaded this particular pirated movie. And then finally we investigated and we had to arrest those boys. They may be tech savvy and all. But when they had committed that crime, they were not aware of that they are actually committing a crime. So anything, now you will say, if you ask me what is illegal and what is legal online, just use your common sense. Anything which is not legal or not right in a real physical world, please do not attempt it on online. Like as you said, there's a paid app. If the paid app is a physical product kept in some shop, when you go to the shop, you have to buy that shop. There's another way. When the shopkeeper goes inside, you can go through some window and you can snatch away that product. But then that is a stealing. So please ensure that those things are not done, and please don't go into the logic that okay, so many people have done it, I can also do it. Maybe so many people have not been caught. You may get caught. If everybody are doing wrong, so my wrong cannot become a right. Understood what I want to say? I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir.
Being in NIA for a significant amount of time, how differently NIA is being functioning and how it is different from the local Kerala police?
NIA, am I audible, Alan? Alan, it was your question.
Yeah, sir, it's audible.
See, NIA basically it's a national investigation agency. It came into existence after 2008 Mumbai attack. I think everybody may be knowing there was a terrorist attack on a Taj hotel in Mumbai. That entire Taj hotel was seized for about 60 hours. After that, we felt a need that we needed some premier institution or agency which will be investigating specifically cases related to terror and terror financing. There are certain limitations with the local police. Like we are overburdened with lot of cases, right from the accidents, the law and order, crime investigations. Then it's like a day in day out. We are overburdened with routine activities. But on the other hand, terror related cases are, it is like not a localized base. It is not a Trivandrum specific or Kollam specific or Kerala specific. It is like a pan. It's like it crosses all the borders, and it requires a lot of detailed investigations. And the people who are behind it, they follow a lot of techniques, lot of technologies, the way the funds are transferred, the way the training is happening. So those things cannot be handled by a local police when the local police is already overburdened with a lot of activities. So, what NIA does, the NIA has got a limited cases, and they deal only with the terror-related cases. So they do a lot of research. Then there are, since terror has got an international angle also, so there are mechanisms. There are certain close tie-ups with the Interpols. There are certain details for which only the NIA has an access, which the local police may not have. Certain things might happen in a very speedy manner when the NIA is investigating. So, it is like it has got a lot of an added advantage. It can coordinate with other international agencies to get the criminals or get the information. Like if I want certain information from UAE or America, so it becomes very difficult. But for NIA, it might be very easier. So like when I was in NIA, so I was supervising the cases of 6 states. It was like Northern Lucknow branch. So all the terror related cases which has happened in those 6 cases, I was investigating that. Then I had investigated this left-wing Maoist cases. So it was a great experience actually. Uh, you develop a different perspective. You develop a like a more bigger picture. What you can never have in a local police. Local police, okay, we see it in a very narrow way. So that was really a good experience, in fact, and very challenging also.
So, sir, is NIA a fully investigation agency or they take care of operations, etc.?
Alan, somehow I'm not able to get your voice.
So, is it clear that? Audible?
Yeah,
Sir,
yeah.
is NIA a wholly investigation agency, which is only be dealing with investigation, or are they been able to get into any operations or like that?
As the name suggests, it is an investigation
As an
agency.
Yes.
And there are certain things which are not to be divulged, but it is basically basically an investigation. Any incident happens, they investigate those cases.
Thanks, sir.
Is
Sir,
it all the questions done?
sure.
Um,
I got a chance to read your book. It's Your Child Safe? How could you manage time enough amidst such a hectic schedule?
Managing time is something like everybody has got lot of time. The persons who don't want to do things, only those people will crib about not having time. And moreover, like when you are doing some activity or some work which is your passion, then you will somehow find your time. Not only the book which you are telling is your child self. After that, I have written to another book called Cyber Moral Stories. It is basically for the children's. After that, I am in the process of writing another real life cyber crime stories, which is it is being done. There's another one book which I have written. It is with the press, which it is with the DC books only. So maybe it might come up within a month's time. So it's all about the time management. In fact, when I was preparing for my civil services at that time, people, people, uh, everybody knows how difficult and how hardworking you have to do. In fact, but I was working. I was working and I was preparing for the civil services. So 24 hours time is too much of a time. But we only talk about how many hours you are studying. But if you see the other way around, how many hours you are wasting? Like for example, if you calculate, okay, a person needs 6 hours or 7 hours sleep, 2 hours to eat and dine, maybe 1 hour to bath, or maybe 1 hour to watch TV, or 2 hours to watch TV. If you calculate that way, then you will see that there's a lot of time which is left over. So it is all about how you manage time, and most important is if you are doing an activity which you love, or which is your passion, you will definitely find out sometime. In fact, I wanted to say that this particular webinar, simultaneously there is another webinar of COVID CME is taking, in which I was supposed to participate, but then I had taken an exemption for that. So since it is like I like to I like to interact with the students and all. Is it uh, over? I mean, there's a silence.
Uh, mm, there's a news about the social audio application named Clubhouse, where the application's data got allegedly hacked and 3.8 phone numbers up for sale in the dark web. So what will be the consequences on the users?
Can you repeat the question?
So that the audio application named Clubhouse has got hacked, and 3.8 billion phone numbers is going to up for sale in the dark web. So what will be the consequences on the users?
Consequences can be anything actually. Like we keep on hearing lot of things being hacked. Like about 1 or 2 years back, we had heard that our IRCTC data was hacked. A few months back, the Facebook data was hacked, and so many data gets hacked which you don't even come to know. Like for example, if the Amazon website is hacked, and you just can imagine, how much data the Amazon may be having: your credit card number, your ID, your address, your account numbers, and also. So what happens is all this data, the person, what's the advantage for a hacker to steal those data? The only advantage is that they put all this data on a dark web, and there are certain purchases. The person who purchases could be of different purposes. Like data is very important. Data can be used for research purpose. Data can be used for so many purposes, and data can be used for the criminal activity. If you are so lucky that your data has not been used against you, that you can just think that you are lucky. But if they want those data to be used against you, it is quite possible. Like for example, all the mobile applications which you use on mobile, they are actually all a malware. They are actually, we give an access to of all your data to that particular company. I think whenever we download any app, um, we accept the terms and conditions. The terms and conditions says that you are accepting giving access to your location, giving access to your profile, everything, and all this data goes to that particular application holder. Now how Google uses my data, or how WhatsApp uses my data, or how Facebook uses my data? Since all these companies are credible, and so they may be using this data only for the marketing purpose. But there are certain people, criminals, who create the app only to steal your data for a fraud purpose only. So you have to be very careful. I mean, when you are divulging a lot of information, the app which you are downloading. In fact, I just went 2 steps ahead. This was not the answer to the question which you asked me. In fact, the answer to your question is that it is risky. Your data, once it is posted on a dark web, it can go to some company who is using only for the marketing purpose. It could go to a company which is using only for the research purpose, but it could also go to some cyber criminals, and they might misuse you also. You are safe so long as you are just a small part in a huge data. Otherwise, you are also like living in a transparent world.
So all questions done?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, can't hear.
The questions are done, ma'am.
If
Are there any questions remaining?
if any
No.
questions are there, I'm happy. I can answer to that, because in between 10-15 minutes, because of me it was got delayed. So if you all are not delayed, I don't mind answering few more questions.
Okay. It was an amazing session we had today. Now I invite Asha ma'am to share a few words.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
So thank you so much. From the very short interaction with you when I met you, I realized how passionate you are to be with students, and you were so crystal clear in explaining to them everything. And I'm very sure that all the questions, they have got the right answers. Now, since it's being recorded, a lot of other children will listen to it gradually, because it's everything you discussed with them today is of very, very vital importance. And also, sir, when, at time, whenever it's convenient, and when the pandemic is a little more controlled, do visit our campus and meet our students, and they'll be delighted to have a person like you in our campus sometime. And thank you so much for your time, valuable time, and you take care. Good evening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the patient sharing. I hope at least some purpose is solved out of this interaction. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Also, sir, Ravi DC have, send his regards, because he's in a webinar with a Delhi conference call. So he has conveyed his regards too for being with us.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Now I welcome Litty Thomas of MBA for vote of thanks. Litty Thomas.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, ma'am. If you want to turn your life around, try thankfulness. A very good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of entire DCS Mat family, I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar and made this webinar a great success. On the outset, I extend my sincere gratitude to our honorable chief guest and resource person, Mr. Sanjay Kumar IPS, for not only sparing his valuable time for us to grace this webinar, but also for enlightening us with his knowledge and presence. Thank you, sir, for your inspiring and encouraging words. I also take this opportunity to thank our chief facilitator, Sri Ravi DC, for leading and inspiring us in working together to conduct this webinar. Thereupon, let me thank respected Dr. N. Ramachandran, Dean DC School of Management Studies, Architect Sirek TM, Dean DC School of Architecture, Dr. Srikant SV, Director and Principal, DC School of Management, Architect Shankar Kandade, Principal of DC School of Architecture, for their enthusiastic support. I also thank Mrs. Asha Fen, Corporate Relations Manager and Student Counselor, the coordination team of Webinar 2.0, the energetic panelists, and all other distinguished faculty members of DCS family for organizing this webinar for us. Finally, yet importantly, I thank my fellow DCians for their active and interactive participation. With these warm words and acknowledgement, we move to end of today's webinar. Once again,